The library is, the library is never truly empty. Even at midnight, it hums with ghosts, the kind made of ink and memory. I come here when the rest of Ravenwell sleeps, when the corridors outside are cold and echoing. The lamplight stains the table's gold, and the smell of old paper clings to my skin like a secret. That's where I see him. Damien Everhart. Head bowed, pen moving in sharp, deliberate lines across the page. The kind of focus that looks almost painful. His tie is loose, his sleeve cuff smudged with ink. There's something about the way he exists, as if even stillness becomes poetry when it touches him. I shouldn't stare, but I do. Because Damien is everything Ravenwell worships, perfection sculpted into human form. The top student in literature, the one whose essays professors whisper about, whose voice makes even Dante sound modern. And I'm just the scholarship girl who slipped through the cracks of their perfect world. He looks up suddenly, eyes the color of rain-soaked slate meet mine. For a heartbeat, I forget how to breathe. Then he does something devastating. He smiles. Soft, almost absent-minded, like it's a habit he's trying to forget. Can't sleep either, he asks, voice low, warm, and threaded with exhaustion. I shake my head. The dorms are too quiet. He chuckles, the sound too soft for the room. Quiet isn't always peace, is it? No, it is. It's the sound of everything you're afraid to think. He gestures toward the chair across from him, and I sit, careful, reverent, like I've just been invited into a cathedral. For a while, there's only the scratching of our pens, the turning of pages, the occasional flicker of candlelight catching his profile. I tell myself I'm not watching him, I'm just noticing. But noticing becomes remembering. And remembering becomes wanting. When I finally gather the courage to speak again, I glance at his notebook. It's filled with fragments, verses half-finished, words crossed out violently. You write beautifully, I whisper. He doesn't look up. No, he says softly. I write honestly, beauty, just a side effect when you hurt enough. And that's when I know I'm in trouble. Because I've met people who are brilliant. But he, Damien Everhart, feels like something written by God on a bad day. Damien and I never planned to become friends. It just happened, the way Ivy finds a wall and decides it belongs there. It starts with borrowed pens, then shared books, then quiet conversation that stretches long after the library closes. He's not what people think. They see brilliance, the polished speeches, the calm precision. But when it's just the two of us, I see the exhaustion behind his eyes, the constant measuring, as if every thought must be worthy of someone else's approval. Do you ever stop thinking? I ask one night, when he's scrawling notes like he's racing against a clock only he can hear. He glances up, mouth twitching. No, thinking's the only thing that makes me feel alive. Even when it hurts. Especially then. There's something both beautiful and terrifying in that answer. Sometimes he reads aloud from the books he loves, lines from Woolf, Rilke, obscure poets I've never heard of. His voice softens when he reads, like he's confessing instead of quoting. Once, I catch him studying my marginal notes in the text I returned. He traces one line I'd written in pencil. Maybe loneliness is just love that forgot its name. When he looks up, something unspoken passes between us, that strange recognition of two people who think too much and sleep too little. We begin walking together after class. The path from the literature hall winds through the old gardens, where the ivy crawls up broken statues and the air always smells faintly of rain. Sometimes he talks. Sometimes we just listen to the silence, a silence that feels less like absence and more like understanding. He tells me about his thesis, about Sera helping him edit drafts. His voice is fond when he mentions her, and I learn to nod without flinching. But then there are moments, small, delicate, dangerous, when he looks at me like I'm something he's trying not to write about. Once, after a late study session, I find him asleep at the table, head resting on his arm, pen still in hand. The candlelight catches the curve of his jaw, the dark smudge of ink on his wrist. I reach out just barely and brush the pen from his fingers so it won't stain the page. My fingertips graze his skin, a mistake, a mercy, a confession all at once. He stirs, murmurs my name like it's something fragile. And I realize friendship is just love wearing a convincing disguise. Our friendship settles into something quiet, almost sacred. We meet without planning to the library, the gardens, the corner table in the cafe where the lights always flicker. He claims he just likes the coffee there. I know better. Damien has a way of making silence feel like conversation. He listens as though every word I say could be turned into literature, every pause a footnote worth remembering. It's disarming how seen I feel. We talk about books, of course, always books. He quotes Rilke and Eliot. I counter with Dickinson. He laughs at my fondness for tragic heroines. You like women who break beautifully, he says one evening, eyes glinting in the lamplight. And you like men who self-destruct with style, I reply. He smiles, slow and real this time, not the practiced one people see in class. Touché. Sometimes we study in the old lecture hall. It's drafty and half forgotten, but it's ours. He sits on the edge of the desk, reading aloud from his notes while I type. The air hums with the smell of old varnish and the faint echo of past debates. Once, during a thunderstorm, the power flickers and dies. We're left in the soft gloom, lit only by the glow of my laptop screen. Guess the universe wants us to stop working, I murmur. He leans back, eyes half closed. Finally, a benevolent God. We sit there, the rain against the windows louder than our breathing. It feels suspended, like if either of us moved, the world would break its spell. He tells me about his mother, how she taught him to read poetry before he could tie his shoes, how she died before she could see him here. His voice doesn't crack, but it wavers in the way light does on the surface of water. I'm sorry, I whisper. He looks at me for a long time, like he's deciding whether to believe my empathy. Then, softly, don't be, she would have liked you. It's a small sentence, but it rearranges something inside me. After that night, he starts sharing more. His writing, his frustrations, his quiet disdain for perfection, the same thing everyone else adores him for. He once said, "You make this place feel less performative." I laughed it off, but I memorized it anyway. Now, when people ask if we're close, I say we study together. Because how do you explain a friendship that feels like falling in slow motion, beautiful, inevitable, and already half a tragedy? By morning, the library feels like a dream that doesn't belong to me anymore. The corridors are alive again, shoes clicking on marble, laughter echoing off the walls like it's been rehearsed. And there he is. Damien Everhart, surrounded by the kind of brightness that makes people forget the dark exists. Sera Blake walks beside him. Her laughter is soft, effortless, the kind of sound that forgives the world for being cruel. She's the sort of girl who looks like a secret the sun told. Hair catching the light, posture perfect, eyes steady in a way mine never are. I shouldn't notice how easily he leans toward her when she speaks. How he looks at her, the way one might look at a familiar book, not with surprise, but with affection born from every word already read. Someone beside me whispers, they've known each other since first year. Of course they have. He glances across the courtyard for half a second, maybe at nothing, maybe at me, and that single heartbeat is enough to ruin my morning. I tell myself I'm fine. I tell myself he smiles at everyone like that. But my throat tightens around the lie. Later, in seminar, the professor reads aloud a line from Keats. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Damien's pen pauses mid-note. Sera smiles without looking up. And I finally understand what it means to envy a line of poetry. After class, she lingers near his desk, hand resting lightly on his sleeve as they speak in low tones. I can't hear the words, but I imagine them, familiar, easy, drenched in the kind of comfort only history can make. He laughs, quietly, the same laugh I thought I discovered last night. I close my notebook and leave before they see me watching. Outside, the rain has started again. Ravenwell always rains when I need it to hide my face. I press my fingers against the cool stone of the corridor wall and whisper to no one. You're not supposed to fall for someone who already belongs to another story. But I already have. The library has become our ritual. Same table, same quiet corner where the lamplight pools like spilled honey across the wood. Tonight, the rain is relentless, drumming against the windows in that soft, rhythmic way that makes time feel slower. Damien sits across from me, head tilted slightly as he reads aloud from his notebook. His voice is low, almost tender. We love what we can't name, he reads, pausing on the line. Maybe that's why we keep writing it down, to prove it ever existed. He looks up, eyes flicking to mine. Too much, he asks. It's honest, I say, painfully, beautifully honest. He smiles a little, and I realize honesty is what binds us, not confession, but the quiet understanding that we could confess if we were reckless enough. The air between us hums. It's not quite silence. It's everything we haven't said, balanced carefully on the edge of a heartbeat. When the thunder rolls outside, the light flickers again. I laugh softly. Ravenwell really hates electricity. He reaches across the table to steady a stack of papers. His fingers brush mine. It's nothing, it's everything. For a moment, the world shrinks to that single touch. The warmth of his hand, the ink stain on his wrist, the quiet way he doesn't pull back. Celia. My name in his voice sounds like something he shouldn't be saying. But then, the door creaks open. Sera's voice breaks the air like sunlight cutting through fog. There you are. I've been looking for you. Damien's hand withdraws, the spell shattered. He turns, smiling, that polite, distant smile he reserves for everyone but me. Sera steps closer, graceful as always. You missed the meeting with Professor Halden. He asked for your revisions. Oh, right. Damien rubs the back of his neck, flustered in a way I've never seen. I lost track of time. Her eyes move to me, soft and kind, not suspicion, not malice, just quiet awareness. You must be Celia, she says. Damien talks about your essays. It's absurd how gentle she is. How impossible it is to hate her. I smile back, my voice steadier than it should be. Only good things, I hope. Only the best. The moment passes, small talk, polite nods, the kind of meaningless words that hurt because they're all we're allowed to say. It starts small, the kind of jealousy that hides behind rational thought. A hesitation when he mentions her name. A silence that feels longer than it should. I tell myself it's foolish, that he's allowed to have a life that doesn't orbit around our late nights and stolen conversations. But every time I see them together, something inside me knots tighter. Sera fits beside him, like she was written in the same sentence. Where he's restrained, she's effortless. Where I hesitate, she glides. They share a rhythm I can't seem to find, a language I don't speak. Sometimes I catch glimpses of them across the courtyard, her laughter like the echo of a bell, his head tilted toward her in quiet amusement. It's not dramatic, it's worse. It's ordinary, comfortable, real. And yet, when he sees me, he always smiles, that soft, distracted smile that started in the library. It's enough to keep me anchored, and it's killing me slowly. In class, he passes me a note. This lecture feels like punishment. Coffee later. My pulse betrays me. I nod, pretending it's casual, pretending my heart didn't just rearrange itself around those two words. That evening, the cafe smells like cinnamon and rain-soaked wool. He looks tired, like he's been carrying the weight of too many unspoken things. She's helping me with the thesis draft, he says, stirring his coffee absently. Sera, I mean. I nod. Of course she is. He glances up, frowning slightly. You sound off. I'm fine, I lie too quickly. He watches me for a long moment, long enough that I wonder what he sees when he looks at me. Maybe just a friend. Maybe a complication. Maybe nothing at all. Celia, he says quietly, you're one of the few people here who doesn't expect me to be perfect. Don't start pretending. It's a gentle reprimand, but it cuts. Because the truth is, I don't want perfection from him. I want everything else. The chaos, the flaws, the way he forgets to eat when he's writing, the way he quotes poetry under his breath when he thinks no one's listening. But I can't say that. So I just smile and tell him his coffee, going cold. When I walk back to the dorms later, the rain has stopped, but the air feels heavy, as if the world is waiting for something to break. In the reflection of the dark window, I see myself, eyes tired, expression distant, and I realize jealousy isn't the loud, ugly thing people make it out to be. Sometimes it's quiet, patient, beautiful even. It's love with its hands clasped politely behind its back, pretending not to mind. The days start to fold into one another, lectures, coffee, rain. Everything feels the same, except me. It's strange how loneliness can exist even when someone sits right beside you. Damien still does in the library, in class, at the cafe, but there's a thin layer of distance now, like dust settling between us. I tell myself I'm imagining it, but the silence feels different. He's distracted more often, tired in a way that has nothing to do with work. And then there's Sera. She's everywhere lately, not intruding, just present. Her laughter lingering in corridors, her name scribbled in the margins of his notes. I start spending more time alone. The library at midnight feels heavier without him, the air too still, the lamp too bright. I tell myself I like the solitude. I lie beautifully. One evening, I find him there again, by accident, or maybe by fate's cruel sense of humor. He looks up as I enter, startled, then smiles that small, weary smile I've missed more than I should. "Couldn't sleep?" he asks. "Couldn't think." He gestures to the chair across from him. I sit, careful as always. There's a kind of relief in the quiet, but also tension, like the room itself is holding its breath. "You've been distant," he says finally. His tone isn't accusing, just curious. "Maybe you've been busy." I'm not talking about schedules. He's watching me now, eyes steady, searching. I want to look away, but I don't. "What do you want me to say?" I ask softly. "I don't know," he admits, something honest. The lamp hums faintly. Outside, the rain starts again, as if the universe is cueing the confession I can't give. "I don't know how to be around you anymore," I whisper, not without thinking too much. He leans forward slightly, elbows on the table, voice low. "What is it you're thinking?" The question hangs there, fragile, dangerous. I laugh under my breath, a sound that trembles more than it should. "You already know." Something shifts in his expression, not surprise, not rejection, something sadder. "Celia." My name again, but this time it sounds like an apology. He reaches for my hand, hesitates, then lets his fingers rest just close enough that I can feel the heat radiating off his skin. Not touch, not distance, something in between. And for one terrible, perfect second, I believe he might close the space between us. But he doesn't. Instead, he looks away, voice barely a whisper. "I can't." "I know." We sit there in silence, hands almost touching, both pretending that knowing makes it easier. Later, as I walk back through the rain, I wonder when friendship turned into this quiet kind of ruin, when love became something I had to survive instead of feel. Everything should have gone back to normal after that night. It doesn't. He's quieter now, not distant exactly, but measured. Every word feels deliberate, like he's afraid of saying too much. And yet, every silence feels charged. He starts finding me more often, in places I used to haunt alone. The courtyard in the early morning, the library before class, even the old lecture hall we once claimed as ours. He doesn't say why he's there. He doesn't need to. One afternoon, I'm sitting under the ivy wall, reading. I hear footsteps, and without looking up, I already know it's him. He sits beside me, close enough that the air shifts, but not enough to touch. "You always read in the sun," he says. "I thought you hated the light." "Maybe I'm trying to prove I belong here," I murmur. He glances at me, eyes softer than I've ever seen them. You do. It's such a simple thing to say, and somehow it ruins me. For a moment, we just sit there, the world trimmed down to the sound of leaves rustling and my pulse in my ears. Then his hand moves almost unconsciously, like it wants to find mine. He stops halfway, fingers curling into his palm. That's when Sera's voice breaks the air. Damien. We both freeze. She stands a few feet away, sunlight catching the edge of her hair, her expression unreadable. Professor Halden's looking for you, she says, tone polite, perfectly composed. But there's a flicker in her eyes, something sharp, something knowing. Right, Damien says quickly, standing. Thanks. He doesn't meet her gaze, doesn't meet mine. He just gathers his things, every movement careful, guilty in its precision. Sera's eyes linger on me, not cruelly, just long enough to make me feel seen in all the ways I don't want to be. When they leave, I tell myself she's imagining things that I am too. But later that night, she finds me in the corridor outside the study rooms. Celia, she says gently, you're very talented. Damien speaks highly of you. Thank you, I manage, wary. She hesitates, then adds, he has a way of making people feel special. It's one of his worst habits. I like him, maybe a little too much. Her voice isn't sharp, it's pitying, and somehow that hurts more. When she walks away, I realize I'm shaking. I start noticing the small things first. The way he looks for me before sitting down. The way he hesitates before speaking, like weighing every word for its consequence. The way his eyes linger too long, not in admiration, but in conflict. It's the kind of attention you can't explain away. Not kindness, not friendship. Something suspended between what's right and what's already too late. We still study together, though it feels like pretending. He leans over my notes, his voice low as he corrects a line of poetry. I can't focus on the words, only the sound. You missed the metaphor, he murmurs. It's not about the sea, it's about drowning. I know, I whisper. I just didn't want to write that part. He looks at me then, like he understands exactly what I mean. There's a moment, brief but unbearable, where the world feels like it's holding its breath for us. Then the door opens. Sera walks in. Her presence changes the air, like a painting brushed over in gold to hide the cracks. She's carrying a book for him, an easy smile on her lips, but her eyes, they flick from me to him, quick and calculating. I thought you might need this, she says, setting the book down beside him. You left it in the hall. Thanks, Damien says softly. His voice is polite but not warm. She notices. I can tell she does, then leaves. After she leaves, Damien exhales, rubbing the back of his neck. She means well, he mutters. She just tries too hard sometimes. You don't have to explain her to me, I say softly. I'm not explaining her. He looks at me again, expression unreadable. I'm explaining myself. That's when I realize how much it costs him to stay still, to keep pretending that we're safe in this in-between. Ravenwell's annual autumn ball is the kind of event people whisper about all semester. Velvet gowns, candlelight, an orchestra playing something too tragic to be called music. I wasn't planning to go. But Professor Alcott insisted that scholars must be seen as well as heard. So I went. Damien found me that morning, in the courtyard. He looked like he wanted to say something, eyes darting between me and the ground, fingers fidgeting with the edge of his coat. Celia, he started, voice low, almost unsure. Yes. He hesitated. Are you going tonight? Apparently, I said with a smile that wasn't quite real. Then, he stopped again, a pause too long. Never mind. I waited for him to finish the sentence. He didn't. So I walked away, pretending not to notice the disappointment flicker behind his calm. The ballroom glows like it was carved out of a dream. Gold spilling from chandeliers, strings humming a waltz that feels centuries old. Everyone looks perfect, polished, practiced, untouchable. And then there's me. My dress is soft gray silk, simple but sharp in the light. My hair falls loose, just curled enough to look accidental. When I catch my reflection, I almost don't recognize her, the girl who looks like she belongs here. Almost. Then I see him. Damien. Dark suit, black tie, quiet confidence. The kind of elegance that makes everyone else fade into the background. He's standing near the staircase with Sera, who's laughing, that effortless, golden sound that makes people turn their heads. He says something, and she touches his arm lightly, still smiling. It's nothing polite, harmless, but the sight of it burns anyway. I don't realize I've been starring until he looks up. Our eyes meet across the room. For a moment, everything else blurs. Then someone calls his name, and the spell breaks. I turn away before I can see if he follows. The balcony is colder than I expect. Music drifts through the doors, muffled by distance. I lean against the railing, looking out at the campus gardens below, silvered by moonlight, quiet, too perfect for my mood. I tell myself I'm fine, that it doesn't matter, that people like me don't fall in love with people like him. The lie almost works. Then I hear footsteps behind me. I don't need to look. Shouldn't you be inside? I say softly. Shouldn't you? Damien's voice, warm, steady, familiar, wraps around me like the music I left behind. He steps closer. The light catches in his hair, softens his expression. For once, he looks unpolished, like he's been searching for the right words and losing to them. I tried to ask you earlier, he says, to go with me. I blink. You didn't. I did, just badly. He laughs once, quietly, almost self-mocking. Sera offered to go together as friends. I thought you weren't interested. Then I saw you tonight and... He stops. And what? You looked like a heartbreak I was supposed to write about, not survive. The silence that follows is dangerous. His hand brushes mine, just a whisper of contact, but enough to make my pulse stumble. Inside, the orchestra swells, violins trembling like the air itself is breaking. He leans closer, voice low. He leans closer, voice low, like the music might shatter if he speaks too loudly. Dance with me. For a heartbeat, I don't move. The words hang between us, fragile, impossible. Here, I manage. Anywhere, he says. Just say yes before I lose my nerve. And somehow I do. He takes my hand, carefully, reverently, and leads me back through the doors. The crowd seems to part without realizing it. The chandeliers spill gold across the floor, and the orchestra shifts into something slower, aching. His hand finds the small of my back. My other hand rests in his, trembling just enough to betray me. We begin to move. Neither of us speaks. It's too dangerous to name what's happening. But I can feel it, in the way his thumb brushes my knuckles, in the way his gaze never strays from mine. The world blurs at the edges. There's only us and the sound of our hearts tripping over the rhythm. You're a terrible dancer, I whisper, smiling despite myself. I told you, he murmurs back, I'm better at falling. The laugh that escapes me isn't graceful, it's real. And for a moment, it feels like everything wrong in the world has gone still. Then I see her. Sera. She's standing at the edge of the crowd, half in shadow, eyes locked on us. Her expression isn't anger, not exactly. It's something colder. Recognition. Resignation. Damien notices her a second later. His hand falters just slightly, and the spell cracks. Damien, she calls softly. He doesn't answer. His grip on my hand tightens instead, not possessive, just desperate, like he knows this is the last moment before everything collapses. The song slows, the final notes stretching thin like silk. He draws me closer, forehead nearly brushing mine. His breath catches, I can feel it, sharp and uneven. People are starring, I whisper. Let them, he says. And then the music ends. He doesn't move right away. Neither do I. The applause rises somewhere distant, hollow and irrelevant. When he finally lets go, it's careful, reluctant. The moment slips from us like sand, leaving only the ache. Sera is still there at the edge of the crowd, watching. But this time, Damien doesn't look away from me. He breathes out, steadying himself, then says quietly, "She's not what you think." I blink, startled. "What?" "Sera," he murmurs. We grew up together. Our parents used to joke about how we'd end up here together, the golden pair. She means a lot to me, but not the way people assume." She looked. "Because she knows," he cuts in gently. "She's known for a while." My heart stumbles. Known what? That I stopped pretending a long time ago. He pauses, eyes searching mine, the kind of look that strips the world down to air and heartbeat. "I don't love her, Celia." His voice is low, steady, certain. "I never did." The words land between us, like a confession and a promise all at once. Something in me wants to run, to protect what's left of my composure, but I can't move. Not when he's still looking at me like that, like he's memorizing something he's afraid to lose. "Then why?" I whisper. "Why did you let everyone believe you did?" "Because it was easier than this," he says simply. "Easier than feeling like I was falling apart every time you looked at me." The orchestra begins another waltz, slow and distant. The candlelight softens around us, flickering like it's trying to listen. He takes a small step closer, close enough that his breath brushes my temple. "I don't want to hide anymore," he murmurs. "Not from you." My throat feels tight, the air too full. "Damien." But before I can finish, someone calls his name again, Professor Alcott this time, sharp and formal. The moment breaks like glass. He exhales, steadying himself. "You should go back to your dorm. It's freezing out here." "And you." "I'll deal with the fallout," he says, a wry smile ghosting across his face. "It's about time I stopped letting everyone else write my story." He turns, starts to walk away, then glances back once more. "Celia," he says softly, "don't assume the worst of me again." And then he's gone, leaving me on the balcony with music bleeding through the doors, heart thrumming with something that feels dangerously close to hope. Later in the library, Damien finds me again. He doesn't mention Sera, doesn't ask if she said anything. He just sits beside me, too close again, the smell of coffee and rain clinging to his coat. "Are we still okay?" he asks quietly. I don't trust my voice, so I nod. But he keeps looking at me, like he wants to say something that would make it not okay at all. He doesn't. And that silence is all the confession I'll ever get. The morning after the autumn ball smells like rain. The kind that clings to stone and memory, refusing to leave quietly. My shoes are still by the door, the gray silk ones, scuffed at the toes from too much dancing and not enough sense. They look like evidence of something I shouldn't have felt. I sit by the window with a cup of tea I haven't touched. Every time I close my eyes, I see the ballroom again, the chandeliers melting gold, the way Damien looked at me like I was the only person breathing. And then Sera. I try to tell myself it didn't mean anything, that I imagined the way his hand faltered when she called his name. But the truth has an annoying habit of whispering when you least want to hear it. Outside, Ravenwell's courtyard is half drowned in mist. Students cross the cobblestones, laughing softly, their voices drifting up like ghosts of the night before. Someone humming the waltz from the ball. I want to throw my cup at them. There's a knock on my door. I don't answer. It opens anyway. Damien steps in, looking tired, not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, the kind you carry behind your eyes. He's holding something, a single white rose, half wilted. "Morning," he says quietly. "Morning," I echo. My voice doesn't sound like mine. He hesitates. "You left early." "I thought it was late," I say, pretending to fuss with the teacup. "Celia." "Don't," I whisper before he can finish. "Don't apologize, you don't owe me that." His jaw tightens, then softens. "I talked to Sera." "Oh," my tone is too light, brittle at the edges. "Did she give you a curfew?" He almost smiles, but it dies before it reaches his eyes. "She told me to stop being a coward." That pulls my gaze up. "Did she now?" He nods. "She was kind, kinder than I deserved." There's something in the way he says it that makes my throat tighten. She's your friend, I manage. You shouldn't have to explain that to me. I'm not explaining, he says, stepping closer. I'm clarifying. The air shifts, slow, deliberate. He sets the rose on the table beside me, careful, like it might bruise. I don't love her, Celia, he says. I never did, not the way she wanted, and she knows that now. The words sit between us, fragile and too loud. I stare at the rose, the color of truce and surrender, and feel my heart twist painfully. I don't know what this is, I whisper. You and me. I just know it feels like standing at the edge of something that could ruin us both. Then maybe, he says softly, we should stop pretending we're not already falling. Silence. The kind that fills every corner of a room and makes breathing feel optional. He's watching me, waiting, not demanding, not pushing, just waiting. And for a second, I want to give in, to forget logic and promises and the cruel order of things. But I don't. Not yet. Damien, I say finally, my voice trembling like a secret. If I fall, there won't be a way back. He takes a step closer, close enough that I can smell rain on his coat. Then we'll find a way forward instead. And just like that, the silence turns electric again, the kind of quiet that feels like a promise neither of us is ready to keep. There's a certain silence only Ravenwell knows. The kind that hums between midnight and morning, where every hallway feels haunted by thoughts no one dares to speak. I shouldn't be here. But I am. The library doors groan as I push them open, spilling a faint breath of candlelight and dust into the corridor. And there he is. Damien. Sitting by the tall windows, a stack of open books before him, but his eyes are somewhere far away, soft, unfocused, like he's been arguing with his own heart. When he hears me, he doesn't startle, just looks up, eyes tired and warm all at once. Celia, he says quietly. He gestures to the seat beside him. Join me in my insomnia. I do, because pretending not to want to would be worse. The candle between us flickers, its light painting gold on his cheekbones, catching the edge of his collar. For a long moment, we don't speak. The silence stretches, filled with the rustle of pages and the unspoken weight between us. Finally, I ask, what are you writing? He hesitates, something I'll never send. To who? He meets my gaze then, steady and fragile all at once. You. My breath catches. You could just say it, you know. I've tried. His voice breaks a little on the words. Every time I start, and then I remember who we are, who I'm supposed to be, and I stop. Then don't stop this time, I whisper. He studies me like he's searching for permission in my eyes, and when he speaks again, it's almost too soft to hear. I love you, Celia. It's not grand, not rehearsed, just raw and aching and real. For a second, I forget how to exist. The world narrows to the sound of his voice and the way my name trembles on his tongue. Say something, he murmurs, and it's not a demand, it's a plea. I laugh, a quiet, broken sound. You have the worst timing. Is that a no? It's a yes, I say, and the words leave me before I can think. It's always been yes. Something in him breaks, beautifully, silently. And then he's reaching for me, tentative at first, as if afraid I'll disappear. His hand brushes my cheek, my breath stutters. The moment stretches, and then collapses. I don't remember who moves first. All I know is that he's kissing me, slow, hesitant, like he's afraid to ruin the reality of it. And I'm kissing him back, desperately, completely, with every piece of quiet longing I've swallowed for months. The world outside ceases to exist. The candle sputters, the old clock ticks, the rain presses against the windows like applause. When we finally pull apart, the air between us feels too thin. His forehead rests against mine. You'll regret this. Probably, I say, but not tonight. And then we're laughing, softly, stupidly, because we've just done the one thing we promised ourselves we would. Fallen completely, irreversibly, beautifully apart. The world feels different in the morning. Not louder or brighter, just softer. Like the air itself, decided to forgive us for last night. The rain has stopped, leaving the courtyard glistening. Dew clings to the stone, and the ivy on the old walls drips like glass. Ravenwell always looks ancient after a storm, like it remembers every secret it's ever been forced to keep. And now it keeps ours, too. I find Damien beneath the ash tree. He's reading again, though the book in his lap is upside down. Typical. He looks up the moment he senses me, and the smile that spreads across his face is quiet, unguarded, like the kind you only give to someone you're finally done pretending with. "You came," he says softly. "I always do," I answer, and it's true. Somehow I always end up where he is. For a long time, we just watch the morning unfold. The campus stirs slowly to life, footsteps echoing in the halls, laughter carried by the wind, a bell chiming in the distance. But it all feels far away. "You were quiet last night," Damien says finally. "I was thinking," I admit. "About whether things like this ever last." He looks at me, that steady, unreadable gaze that always makes me feel seen in ways I didn't know I wanted. Then he says simply, "They can if we want them to." I want to believe him, I do. But the part of me that's always waiting for the ache hesitates. "Everything here fades," I murmur. "Even the gold on the chandeliers, even us." "Maybe," he says, "but we don't have to." Before I can say anything, he reaches out slowly, giving me every chance to pull away. I don't. His fingers brush mine, tentative, and then twine together. The warmth of his hand settles something restless in me. "Celia," he murmurs, "I meant what I said last night, all of it." I smile, small and certain. "So did I." He exhales, relieved, and for the first time, the silence between us feels safe. The kind of silence that doesn't need to hide anything. When he leans in, I meet him halfway. The kiss isn't rushed or desperate. It's steady, sure, the kind that feels like an answer to every question we've been too afraid to ask. His hand slips to the back of my neck, gentle, grounding, as if reminding me, we're here, right now, alive. When we finally part, the world feels warmer somehow. "Was that real?" I whisper, teasing. He smiles against my forehead. "If it isn't, don't wake me up." I laugh quiet, unguarded, entirely his. And for the first time since stepping foot in Ravenwell, I'm not thinking about where I belong.